going straight down the middle here, all right? There's a catch in this story that the story doesn't take on. The catch is this. Most, I would say, all of the attitudes that you see some of the white youth expressing came from adults. All right, so the little white children who were pulled out of school were pulled out by adults. It is really important to be, this could be overlooked, and it could be seen that the Caucasian children were these racist, awful monsters. And no, monsters are made. They're not born. And so it is very important to clarify with the children, if you use this or any piece of material like this, that the ideas and the feelings that the children had came from their parents. This is a big deal. And somehow, when you look at the photographs through the story, and you see parents bringing their children to school, and you see the crowds, they're mostly young teenage males, all right? And in a few pictures, there are some females, but it's mostly young teenage males. Yes, it's not little kids out there saying, you know, go away, we want segregation. So that this coming from the home is a big part of who we are and what we believe. And so we want children to be real clear about that, so I want to say that. Now, down the middle, on this side, you will write a persuasive, argumentative paragraph or two. And your topic is, it was wrong to subject a first grader to what Ruby Bridges experienced. Wrong. Use evidence from the text. On this side, you will write a 1 to 2 paragraph persuasive essay. It was right to have Ruby Bridges go through what she did, and you will use the text for evidence. You ready? Go. How do you manage what's going on? Everything I do with you, everything you see me do is extremely deliberate. So when you see me walk around certain places, you see me stop certain places, this is what has to happen when we're doing close reading and Common Core English language arts. So we want, collaborative discussion is a huge part of it, so that when I'm managing, I walk. So I manage by walking, stopping and listening. If I get a sense that there's something going on, then I'll come over and listen. What's going on? They tell me, okay, you can do 2. So present the solution, stretch whatever was going on, off we go. So that it continues like that. That's the management piece, is that keeping that on task. How many times have you read the book? 3 or 4 times? 5 times? How many times have you read it for a purpose with an intent? Every time. Were the intents and purposes different? Yes, they were. Have you, from the time I did the read aloud earlier this morning to now, Do you internally have a deeper understanding of Ruby Bridges and what she did? Do you see how that's happened? So imagine this happening over 3 days or more. It's not that we come out with, oh, we did 4 read alouds this week. No, what I want to hear is that we did one really well, and we covered all of this, and we just went deeper and deeper with it. There's a difference between listening and speaking, discussing vocabulary, and writing and using that vocabulary. There's a difference between making sure that your collaborative discussion is evidence-based and that your writing is evidence-based, right? And now you're asked to persuade. Who's up first from this side? Please. I'm going to frame you. Come to the front. Come to the front. Acknowledge say your name.
Tiffany McGrath, I'm from Daughtry Elementary.
Acknowledge your group.
My awesome coworkers. And these girls too.
All right. Then announce what side you were on and read. And remember that your reading is as persuasive as your writing.
We were writing about that it was wrong to subject a first grader to what happened. Why pull a first grader from a safe environment where she liked her teacher, school, and friends? It was wrong to subject Ruby Bridges to the torture she endured during the time she was integrated into a white school. Being escorted by U.S. Marshals through taunting crowds is a dangerous environment to put a child in. Bearing the brunt of the verbal and mental abuse is not fair and a burden too great for a child to bear. In conclusion, separation from society on several levels and abuse can have emotional scars that are carried for a lifetime. Thank you.
From this side, a retort. Come up, frame yourself.
Jennifer Daly. I represent these 3 tables. We are on the side that it was correct for Ruby Bridges to go to the school. It was absolutely right to have Ruby Bridges enter the Williams Franz Elementary School for her first grade education. There are many factors that support this. The main reason, according to the text, is that the United States government said segregation is wrong. With that being said, Ruby Bridges integrating herself into the school was in alignment with the changing laws. It is our duty as parents to teach our children to obey the laws of the land, and that's exactly what Ruby Bridges' parents did. Most importantly, though, Ruby Bridges believed people were kind. This was evident in the prayer she said. Please forgive these people. They don't realize what they are doing. She was raised with Christian beliefs that gave her the strength to be brave. The Franz School was closer to her home and more convenient for her family. She had a desire to learn and have friends and was able to endure the chaos that was caused by the change from segregation to integration due to the strength and beliefs that her family instilled within her. Thank you.
The opposing side. Excellent, excellent work for all groups.
Hi, Brian Davis from Manatee County again, and these are our groups. And I want to start out by saying that my interpretation of the question was controversial in our groups. We were asked to do, it was wrong to subject a first grader like Ruby Bridges to what she experienced, and many of my colleagues felt like they were arguing that her parents should not have subjected to her. I took the position that it was wrong for the white people who opposed her to make her experience what she did, which is a little bit of a bridge between the two topics. But we did collaborate, and those are ideas from yesterday. An army of one. Can you imagine having to have 3 federal marshals walk you to school the first day? Why should a first grader need this kind of protection in order to go to school? Teenagers and grown-ups stood along the way with mean signs. Her mother walked with her too. This is what Ruby Bridges had to go through to attend first grade at a school near her home where only white children attended before. Ruby was happy in kindergarten where she attended with only black children. The U.S. government said Ruby should be allowed to go to her neighborhood school, and her family agreed. But some white people didn't want to integrate their schools, which were segregated. First graders want to learn to read and write and do math. It was wrong to try to keep Ruby from doing that because of the color of her skin. Ruby didn't care about skin color. She just wanted to learn and make friends. It was wrong to try to keep her from doing that. Ruby had a brave teacher who loved her and continued to teach her even when the other children stopped coming to school. Ruby was lonely. That was wrong too. Eventually, other kids came to school with Ruby again. Ruby is a grown woman now, and she teaches kids that black people and white people can be friends. She also teaches kids to be kind, even though many people weren't kind to her. It must have been very hard for Ruby and her parents to do what they did. Parents and children should not have to face decisions and fear like that in the United States of America, where we are all created equal.
This side, thank you. Come up and frame yourself. Now, do you see how my language has changed? Not I frame you, but come up and frame yourself, so they begin to internalize those kinds of behaviors and language? Good.
Danielle Dell, Title I, Teacher on Assignment.
Your group?
My group is right back there, Title I, Ballot, and books. Bridges to Equality. I had to endure months and months of isolation, loneliness, and mockery. They yelled at me to go away. The marshals had to escort me through angry mobs into safety. But through this unkindness and segregation, I learned the importance of integration and kindness to all. And through my experiences, I am able to tell children that black and white people can be friends. But above all, I can now tell children to be kind to each other. Our country has changed because of my early experiences, but it bridged a way to equality. It was right to take those first steps into that school, bridging segregation into integration.
Do we have another table side over here? Come on up, please. Thank you. Frame yourself.
I know I was coming up front. I want to volunteer.
It's fine. You're welcome.
My name is Melissa, and I work with Bayshore and Orange Ridge, and we just kind of combined both of them since both essays have really good points. So we started with, how would you feel if you were 6 years old and you had to be escorted by an armed U.S. Marshal to get to school? At such a young age, Ruby did not have a personal choice to participate in integration. As stated in her story, she liked the school that she was at. She liked her teachers. She liked her friends. In 1961, her mother decided that she would have to attend the French school. This school was a school for white children and was closer to home than the black school. Then it says, not only was she escorted by marshals, but people were waving signs and yelling at her hurtful things in her face. How small and lonely would you feel in this position? Parents pulled their children out of the school, so even though she was in school, she was lonely. Is this the type of ostracism worth the personal cost of a 6-year-old's well-being, or do these images haunt Ruby even now? In retrospect, we feel that subjecting Ruby Bridges for political purposes was wrong to do at such a young age.
Whoa. Oh. We have one over here. Yes, please come up.
together.
Wonderful.
But we had a tie between two, so bringing a different perspective. Why is it right for Ruby Bridges to do what she did, you may ask? Sorry. Was it right for Ruby Bridges to do what she did, you may ask? Well, absolutely. By taking those first small steps to the door of William From's school, Ruby Bridges participated actively in a major national change as dictated by our government. The United States government said that segregation was wrong and that Ruby Bridges should be allowed to go to William From's school. The change in which she was participating was so effective that even First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt wrote Ruby a letter telling her that she was a good American. Her actions did, in fact, create positive changes, both for herself personally and for our country, lasting changes. After beginning her first grade education at the William From School, months and months passed. Then children began returning. Ruby later grew up, got married, and had children of her own. Still, she speaks to children now about her experiences. Nationwide, she was recognized as a hero for these changes. Author John Steinbeck wrote a book about her, calling her brave. Norman Rockwell painted a picture of Ruby entering school with the U.S. Marshals. Ruby and her teacher, Miss Henry, were even on TV. Now our country is integrated, and we don't even think about segregation anymore. Because of Ruby Bridges' small actions, big changes were made in our schools, our lives, and our hearts.